The bitter cold of the Colorado Rockies had never bothered James Martinez during his 15 years of military service, but tonight felt different. Something in the air made his combat-trained instincts bristle as he stoked the dying embers in his cabin's fireplace. After retiring from Special Forces last year, he'd chosen this remote location for its solitude, a place where the memories of countless missions could fade into the wilderness. The storm outside howled with increasing fury, driving sheets of snow against the reinforced windows. James checked his watch, 23:47. He was about to turn in when a strange luminescence caught his eye through the frost-covered glass. At first, he dismissed it as the aurora borealis, but the light moved with purpose, descending rapidly behind the tree line. The former soldier's muscles tensed as he retrieved his rifle from its rack. Years of experience had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, every fiber of his being screamed that something extraordinary was about to happen. A crash echoed through the woods, followed by the sound of breaking branches. Whatever had fallen was massive and close. James pulled on his winter gear and grabbed his emergency kit. Old habits died hard. As he reached for the door, a sharp rap against the wood made him freeze. "Please," came a voice, unlike anything he'd ever heard. It was melodic yet distorted, as if multiple people were speaking in perfect harmony. "Sanctuary." James's grip tightened on his rifle as he slowly opened the door. The sight before him defied explanation. A tall, slender figure stood in the swirling snow, its skin seeming to shift between various shades of blue and silver. What appeared to be ceremonial armor covered its torso, though much of it was damaged. Most striking were its eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle, each glowing with an intense amber light. The being swayed unsteadily. "The harvesters, they come. Must warn." It collapsed forward, and James's instincts took over. He caught the alien before it hit the ground, noting with surprise how light it was despite its height. After securing the perimeter and checking for any immediate threats, James brought the unconscious visitor inside. Up close, he could see that what he'd thought was armor was actually part of its body, some kind of exoskeletal plating that pulsed faintly with bioluminescent patterns. As he treated what appeared to be injuries, his mind raced through the implications. An alien. An honest-to-God alien was lying on his couch, and based on its warning, it wasn't alone. Years of tactical training kicked in as he began to assess the situation. If hostile forces were in pursuit, his cabin's location would be both an advantage and a liability. The surrounding mountains offered numerous defensive positions, but they were also effectively trapped. The alien stirred, its 3 eyes opening slowly. "You did not terminate me," it said, the harmonic voice clearer now. "That's not how we do things here," James replied, maintaining a calm exterior despite his racing heart. "I'm James Martinez. You're safe for now." "I am Commander Velixi of the Sentinel Fleet," the alien responded, attempting to sit up. "Your assistance is unprecedented. My data suggested humans would respond with hostility to my presence." James helped Velixi into a sitting position. "Maybe you've been reading outdated reports. We've evolved a bit." He paused, considering his next words carefully. "You mentioned something about harvesters before you collapsed. Want to tell me what we're dealing with?" Velixi's expression shifted, the bioluminescent patterns on their exoskeleton pulsing with what James interpreted as anxiety. "The harvesters are a species that consumes civilizations. Not merely through conquest, they absorb entire species, stealing their genetic information and technological achievements. Earth has been chosen as their next target." James processed this information with the same analytical approach he'd used in countless military briefings. "And you're here to help prevent that?" "The Sentinel Fleet exists to warn developing worlds of the harvester threat," Velixi explained. "But my ship was detected and damaged during atmospheric entry. The Harvester Advanced Scout vessel will have detected the crash. They will come to eliminate me, and any humans who have made contact. As if to emphasize the point, a low, pulsing hum began to fill the air. James moved to the window, his trained eyes scanning the sky. 3 dark shapes were moving through the storm, their outlines barely visible against the clouds. "They're here," Velixi said, their voice carrying a note of resignation. "You should leave. This is not your fight." James checked his rifle's magazine and smiled grimly. "Commander, if these harvesters are truly a threat to Earth, then this is exactly my fight. Besides, you're in no condition to handle this alone." He moved quickly, years of special operations experience guiding his actions. The cabin's generator was switched off, plunging the interior into darkness save for Velixi's faint glow. James retrieved his night vision equipment and began setting up defensive positions. "Your species continues to surprise me," Velixi observed, their bioluminescence dimming to barely a flicker. The report suggested humans were primitive, divided, fearful of the unknown. "We're full of surprises," James replied, handing Velixi a spare tactical vest. "Now, tell me everything you know about these harvesters. If we're going to survive the night, I need to understand what we're up against." As the storm raged outside and the hostile ships drew closer, James listened intently to Velixi's briefing. His mind was already formulating strategies, adapting his earthly combat experience to this unprecedented situation. Whatever came through that storm, they would face it together, human and alien, united against a common threat. The night was young, and the real battle was about to begin. The mountain winds carried the sound of the approaching harvester ships, their low hum growing stronger with each passing moment. James and Velixi had transformed the cabin into a defensive position, but both knew they were severely outgunned. Their biosuits allow them to operate in any environment, Velixi explained, their amber eyes tracking the movement outside. They possess advanced weaponry that can disintegrate organic matter on contact. But they have one weakness: they rely heavily on thermal tracking. James nodded, already forming a plan. "The storm works in our favor then. All these heat signatures from the local wildlife will confuse their sensors." He pulled out a topographical map of the area. "There's an old mining complex 2 miles north. Lots of deep tunnels, multiple exits. A bright beam of energy sliced through the cabin's roof, vaporizing a section of wood instantly." James rolled behind cover, pulling Velixi with him. "Time to move." They burst through the back door into the howling storm. James led the way, his night vision goggles cutting through the darkness while Velixi's natural bioluminescence dimmed to near invisibility. The sound of pursuit followed them, mechanical whirs and clicks that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "They're deploying hunter-seekers," Velixi warned, their harmonic voice barely audible above the wind. "Autonomous drones that," an explosion cut them off, sending snow and debris flying through the air. James grabbed Velixi's arm and pulled them behind a massive boulder. "Save the technical briefing. Can you fight?" In response, Velixi's exoskeletal plating shifted, revealing what looked like organic weaponry. "The Sentinel fleet does not send defenseless messengers." Their 3 eyes narrowed. "But my combat systems were damaged in the crash." A hunter-seeker drone appeared above them, its metallic body gleaming in the darkness. Before it could attack, James put 3 rounds through its central processing unit. The drone crashed into the snow, its lights flickering out. "Impressive accuracy," Velixi observed. Perhaps the reports of human combat capabilities were not entirely inadequate. They continued their trek through the storm, using the terrain to their advantage. James's Special Forces training proved invaluable as he led them through hidden paths and natural choke points. Every few hundred yards, they would encounter another drone, each one meeting a swift end through either James's marksmanship or Velixi's remaining weapons. As they approached the mining complex, Velixi suddenly stopped. "We must speak quickly. There are things you need to understand about the harvesters, and about why I really came to Earth." James took up a defensive position, scanning their surroundings. I'm listening. The harvesters are not simply conquerors. They are collectors. They believe that by absorbing the genetic and technological achievements of other species, they are preserving them. Velixi's patterns pulsed with intensity. But Earth is different. Your species has something they've never encountered before. And what's that? Adaptability. Creativity. Your kind possesses an extraordinary ability to innovate, to find solutions where none should exist. The harvesters don't want to preserve humanity, they want to understand and replicate this trait. A distant explosion lit up the night sky. The main harvester force was getting closer. James checked his ammunition. So why are you really here? The truth this time. Velixi's 3 eyes met his gaze. I am not just a messenger. I am a defector. The Sentinel fleet, we have watched humanity for centuries, documenting your progress. Many of us began to question our role as mere observers. Some of us believed we should make contact, form an alliance. Let me guess, your superiors disagreed? They voted to remain hidden, to let the harvesters take Earth as they have taken countless worlds before. I could not accept that decision. Velixi's voice carried a note of fierce determination. Your species deserves a chance to fight. James processed this information with the quick tactical assessment he developed over years of combat. So we're not just running from the harvesters. The Sentinel fleet wants you silenced too. Correct. The 3 ships pursuing us, only one belongs to the harvesters. The others are my former colleagues, seeking to prevent unauthorized contact with humanity. The implications were staggering, but James had no time to dwell on them. Multiple energy beams carved through the forest behind them, turning trees to ash. The hunters had found their trail. The mining complex is just ahead, James said, readying his weapon. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Your fight is our fight now. Velixi's bioluminescent patterns shifted to a deeper, more intense blue. You continue to prove why I chose to defy my orders. Humanity's capacity for alliance even with the unknown, it is remarkable. They reached the mine entrance just as the first harvester troops became visible through the storm, towering figures in sleek, black armor that seemed to absorb light itself. Behind them, 2 Sentinel ships descended from the clouds, their designs more elegant but no less deadly. James pulled a set of remote detonators from his pack. I've got a few surprises planted around the perimeter. Ready to show both sides what happens when they underestimate humanity? Velixi's organic weapons hummed to life. Lead the way, James Martinez. Let us write a new chapter in the history of both our peoples. As they disappeared into the dark tunnels of the mining complex, the night erupted into chaos. The battle that would determine not just their fate, but potentially the future of human-alien relations, was about to begin in earnest. The mining complex's tunnels echoed with the sounds of pursuit as James and Velixi navigated the underground maze. Their footsteps splashed through shallow groundwater, the cold mountain runoff providing natural cover from thermal detection. The tunnels branch into 3 main sections, James explained, consulting his mental map. The east shaft leads to an old processing facility. The west goes deeper, connects to natural caverns. The north, he stopped as Velixi raised a hand in warning. The alien's exoskeleton pulsed with rapid patterns. Energy signatures approaching. Multiple vectors. Their organic weaponry emerged from beneath the plating. They're attempting to surround us. James switched off his tactical light, relying on Velixi's dim bioluminescence. Time for a lesson in human guerrilla warfare. These tunnels aren't just hiding places, they're weapons. He pulled out several devices from his pack, old mining charges repurposed with modern detonators. Working quickly, he placed them at key structural points while Velixi kept watch. The alien observed with increasing interest. Your species excels at improvisation, they noted. The harvesters will not expect this level of tactical adaptation. That's humanity's secret weapon, James replied, setting the final charge. We're really good at surviving things we're not supposed to survive. A massive explosion rocked the tunnel behind them, the entrance collapsing as their pursuers forced their way in. James activated his radio scanner, picking up fragments of communication between the harvester forces. They're speaking in some kind of code, he muttered. Velixi's eyes narrowed. Not code. Battle prayers. The harvesters believe each conquest is a sacred act. They see themselves as preservers of universal knowledge. Religious zealots with advanced technology. Great combination. James checked his ammunition. What about your former Sentinel friends? They will be more cautious. Their priority is containing the situation, preventing further human contact. Velixi's patterns shifted to a deeper hue. But they underestimate the damage that has already been done. The very fact that we stand here, fighting together, proves their entire philosophy of isolation was flawed. Heavy footsteps echoed through the tunnels, accompanied by an otherworldly humming. James pressed himself against the wall, signaling Velixi to do the same. 3 harvester troops passed beneath them, their black armor seeming to bend light around itself. Each carried weapons that looked more grown than manufactured. Wait for my signal, James whispered. He pressed the first detonator. The explosion wasn't just about force, it was about timing. The charges he'd placed were sequenced to create a cascading collapse, turning the very mountain against their pursuers. As the first blast hit, James opened fire on the harvester troops, his bullets finding weak points in their armor while Velixi's weapons delivered precise energy bursts. But the harvesters were formidable opponents. One of them turned, raising its weapon, and fired a stream of something that looked like liquid darkness. James rolled away as the substance ate through the rock wall behind him. Their weapons break down matter at the molecular level, Velixi warned, engaging in close combat with another harvester. The alien's exoskeletal plating shifted and hardened, forming blade-like extensions that could pierce the enemy's armor. James triggered the next sequence of charges, bringing down a section of tunnel between them and the approaching Sentinel forces. We need to reach the processing facility. I've got an idea, but you're not going to like it. They fought their way through the tunnels, using every trick and advantage they could find. James's military experience combined with Velixi's advanced capabilities made them a formidable team. Each encounter with enemy forces revealed new aspects of their complementary fighting styles. Finally, they reached the old processing facility, a vast underground chamber filled with rusted machinery and abandoned equipment. James immediately began rigging the ancient generators while Velixi secured the perimeter. The facility's power system, James explained as he worked. It's connected to an old hydroelectric setup. If we can restart it, the electromagnetic pulse would disable their advanced systems, Velixi finished, understanding dawning in their 3 eyes. But it would also affect my remaining combat functions. Like I said, you wouldn't like it. James continued his work. But sometimes the best solution isn't the most elegant one. Velixi was quiet for a moment, their patterns pulsing thoughtfully. Your species truly is remarkable. You take what others would see as primitive technology and transform it into an advantage. The chamber shook as their pursuers drew closer. Both Sentinel and Harvester forces were converging on their position. James finished his modifications and turned to Velixi. This is going to get rough. Sure you want to stick with the primitive humans? Velixi's response was interrupted by a massive breach in the chamber's ceiling. As debris rained down, multiple enemies descended into the space, harvesters and sentinel troops, momentarily united in their pursuit. Your species, Velixi said, readying for battle, has taught me that true advancement comes not from isolation, but from connection. From trust. They looked at James. Do it. James hit the switch, and the ancient facility roared to life. What followed would change the course of human-alien relations forever, if they survived to tell about it. The electromagnetic pulse ripped through the underground chamber, its invisible wave shorting out advanced technology in an expanding sphere. The Harvester troops' weapons sputtered and died, their armor systems failing. The Sentinel Force's equipment suffered similar fates. Even Velixi's exoskeletal systems flickered and went dark. But James had prepared for this moment. As alien technology failed around them, he engaged with purely mechanical weapons, a compound bow, carbon fiber arrows, and old-school explosives. In the chaos that followed, the primitiveness of human warfare became its greatest strength. "Fall back to position 3, he shouted to Velixi, who was engaging in hand-to-hand combat with a harvester twice their size. Without their powered armor, the aliens were discovering that physical combat with humans wasn't as simple as their data had suggested. The chamber had become a battlefield where advanced technology meant nothing. James's arrows found their marks in exposed joints and visual sensors. His knowledge of the facility's layout proved invaluable as they used the maze of old machinery for cover. "Their neural networks are attempting to adapt," Velixi called out, their voice strained without its usual harmonic enhancement. "We have minutes at most before they restore basic functions." A Sentinel soldier charged their position, wielding what looked like a ceremonial blade. James met the attack with his combat knife, decades of close-quarters combat training coming into play. The alien was stronger, but James was faster, more adaptable. He ended the fight with a precise strike to what he hoped was a vulnerable point. "The Harvesters are retreating," Velixi observed, joining him at their defensive position. "But not in defeat. They're regrouping." "They're learning," James agreed, retrieving arrows from fallen enemies. "Each encounter teaches them more about how we fight. We need to end this before they adapt completely." A deep rumbling shook the chamber. Through the breach in the ceiling, they could see the Harvester ship descending, its massive form blocking out the storm above. The vessel's organic architecture pulsed with internal light, like a giant heart beating in the sky. "Their primary consciousness," Velixi explained, their 3 eyes fixed on the ship. "The individual Harvesters are merely extensions of the main entity. If we could reach the ship, we could end this." James checked his remaining explosives. "But they'll be expecting that. Not from both of us." Velixi's expression shifted in a way James was learning to read as determination. The Sentinel's prophecies spoke of this, the moment when humanity would rise beyond mere observation. They feared it because they knew it would change everything. The ship was lowering what looked like organic tendrils into the chamber. The remaining Harvester troops were gathering beneath it, their systems slowly coming back online. Behind them, the surviving Sentinel forces were regrouping, their own technology gradually recovering. James analyzed the situation with practiced efficiency. "The maintenance shafts. They lead all the way up to the surface. If we time it right, we can reach the ship while they expect us to go deeper." Velixi nodded. "My people believed humans were too primitive to be true allies. The Harvesters believe you are merely resources to be consumed. Neither understood what I learned from studying your history." "And what's that?" "That humanity's greatest strength isn't technology or physical power. It's your ability to face impossible odds and find a way through. Your capacity to trust, to ally with the unknown, to adapt and overcome." The ship's tendrils were now fully extended, beginning to pulse with terrible purpose. They had minutes at most before the Harvesters launched their final assault. James handed Velixi half of his remaining explosives. "Time to show them why that capacity for alliance is so dangerous. Ready to make history?" Velixi's bioluminescence, though weakened, pulsed with renewed intensity. "Together, James Martinez. For both our peoples." They split up, each taking different maintenance shafts. As they climbed toward their destiny, the storm above grew stronger, as if nature itself was responding to the epic confrontation about to unfold. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the future of human-alien relations throughout the galaxy, would be decided in the next few minutes. The true battle was about to begin, and its outcome would echo across the stars. The maintenance shafts opened onto the mountainside, where the full force of the storm met them with Arctic fury. The harvester ship loomed above, its organic hull writhing with internal energy. James and Velixi emerged on opposite sides, their timing perfectly synchronized. The ship's defenses were beginning to recover from the electromagnetic pulse, but they were sluggish, confused. James fired a grappling line into one of the vessel's neural clusters while Velixi used their partially restored exoskeletal abilities to leap directly onto the hull. The primary consciousness chamber will be at the center, Velixi communicated through their now weakened neural link. We must reach it before. The ship suddenly pulsed with crimson energy. Massive tentacles of living metal erupted from its surface, seeking to crush the intruders. James swung beneath one, planting explosives as he moved. Velixi's knowledge of harvester biology proved invaluable as they identified and struck vulnerable points. Below, the Sentinel forces had emerged from the facility. But instead of attacking, they stood watching. Their prophecies were unfolding before them, humanity fighting alongside one of their own, demonstrating exactly what they had feared and denied for centuries. The ship's outer layer began to split open, revealing its true nature. What had appeared mechanical was actually a massive living entity, its consciousness spread throughout its biological systems. At its core, visible through layers of translucent tissue, pulsed the primary brain, the central intelligence that controlled all harvester operations on Earth. Their weakness, Velixi called out, dodging a barrage of organic projectiles. The primary consciousness cannot comprehend individual action. It expects us to behave as a collective. James understood immediately. The harvesters, like the Sentinels, had fundamentally misunderstood humanity. They couldn't predict or counter the actions of beings who thought and acted independently while working together. They fought their way inward, each taking different approaches that complemented the other. James used his remaining explosives to create diversions, drawing the ship's defenses away from Velixi's advance. The alien, in turn, used their knowledge of harvester biology to identify and disable critical systems. But the ship was learning, adapting. Its attacks became more coordinated, more deadly. A tendril of living metal caught James, threatening to crush him. Velixi abandoned their advance to aid him, their partially restored weapons severing the tendril. The core, James gasped, his ribs bruised but intact. We won't get another chance. They were close now, close enough to see the massive neural cluster that served as the ship's brain. But the defenses were overwhelming, and both of them were exhausted, injured. Together, Velixi said, their three eyes meeting James's gaze. Like your human stories of impossible victories. James nodded, understanding. They charged simultaneously from different angles, each serving as a distraction for the other's advance. The ship couldn't track both approaches, couldn't predict their independent yet coordinated actions. At the last moment, they converged on the core. James's remaining explosives combined with Velixi's knowledge of harvester physiology created a devastating effect. The neural cluster began to destabilize, its organic components breaking down. Run! Velixi shouted, but the ship's death throes had already begun. Living metal collapsed around them as the massive consciousness died, its hold over the individual harvester troops below severing instantly. They leaped for safety, the storm's winds catching them as the ship began to disintegrate. James's grappling line caught a protruding rock face, and he grabbed Velixi's hand as they fell. They swung together through the chaos, landing hard but alive on the mountainside. The harvester ship crashed into the valley below, its organic components dissolving in a spectacular display of bioluminescence. The remaining harvester troops, cut off from their central consciousness, collapsed into inert masses of organic technology. The Sentinel forces approached slowly, their weapons lowered. The eldest among them stepped forward, addressing Velixi in their harmonic language. James watched as his friend replied with fierce pride, gesturing to the human at their side. "They understand now," Velixi explained. The prophecies spoke truth, but not as they had interpreted it. Humanity's greatness lies not in isolation from other species, but in your ability to form true alliances, to trust and be trusted. Dawn was breaking over the mountains, the storm finally clearing. Below, lights could be seen approaching, human authorities, drawn by the night's chaos. The world was about to change forever. What happens now? James asked, watching the Sentinel ships descend peacefully. Velixi's patterns pulsed with what he now recognized as hope. "Now, my friend, we begin the real work. Earth will no longer stand alone in the galaxy. The age of isolation is over." As the sun rose over the Rockies, human and alien stood together, witnesses to the dawn of a new era. The night's battle had proven what Velixi had always believed, that humanity's greatest strength was not in its technology or its weapons, but in its capacity to reach across the stars and forge bonds of trust with the unknown. The story of James Martinez and Velixi would be told across galaxies, a testament to the power of alliance, trust, and the indomitable human spirit. But for now, they simply watched the sunrise together, two beings from different worlds who had changed the course of history through the simple act of choosing to trust each other.